This is in the 1910s. They were complaining that the fairies
Girl,
were
just
taking
wait.
over.
Just
Girl,
wait,
you have
honey.
no idea how many fairies are about to take over.
Hello.
Oh, hello. That was weird. I don't know what just happened.
I'm Maxi.
Hello, I'm Carolyn.
And this is Mutable Immutables, the show where we quibble queerly.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do.
Yes, and we are unofficially, but I guess officially, whatever, it doesn't matter. We are here with season 2. We are starting season 2
Oh,
of
yeah.
the
I
podcast.
forgot. Oh, my God. Season 2.
Yeah, can you believe?
Season 2. Get ready for our sophomore slump.
Yep. We're moving into the second season because now we kind of have more of a directional idea for this season, and it's going to be less unasked for opinions about Drag Race and more historical content.
We'll
about
still
the queer
have
community.
those. We just can't get around to watching everything that Drag Race
Oh
has.
my god! And those other 3 that were just announced, like part of me wants to get into all of them a little bit. Like I'd love to check out Mexico. I'd love to check out Germany. But like, oh my god, there's so many, and I've only seen one episode of France, and it's already finished.
Well.
Oh
well.
Oh well. So what are we talking about today?
Okay. Well, so today we were talking about pre 60s pre-war notions of gender, sex, and being gay. Homosexuality.
Queerness.
Queerness. But all those words have very specific connotations before Stonewall, but specifically before the wars. So yeah, we're gonna talk about old gays.
Hell yeah.
Very old, dead.
not the
dead,
old gays
and their
on
grandchildren
TikTok
are also dead.
But...
I don't know anything about the ticks and the talks. Okay. Well, do you have any commentary before we get started?
I don't think so. Other than just a warning, I guess, to our listeners. We are learning.
Oh.
And we are sharing what we have learned, and we're using the internet to learn. And as such, if we say the wrong thing, if there's incorrect information, sorry about it. We're not trying to spread false information.
Okay, well, yes, in general, true, but this information specifically comes from a book.
Oh yeah, give it a shout out.
That I read on the internet. So, Gay New York is a book by George Chauncey about basically what I just said, and literally all of this just comes from the intro, and you can just Google it. It's available online, but specifically, I read it on the Internet Archive, so you can just create an account and then rent basically books for free. You can only do it for a certain amount of time, but it's really a great resource. So that's, if you don't like it, blame George Chauncey, not me. It's not my fault.
Also, speaking of resources, if you can't sign up for an account or anything like that, or if you already have an existing library account at your local library, a lot of them have ebook libraries that you can rent from. And also, if you don't have a membership with your local library, you should get one, because even if you never use it, they use those membership numbers to keep getting funding and stuff. So anyway.
Yes. Okay. So I don't really know where to start with this, because it's just I mean, I like doing things chronologically, as you know. I like doing timelines.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just not a timeline. It's more just of a conceptualization of how people used to consider themselves in terms of what we now call queerness. So for one thing, as my gracious co-host pointed out in our notes, that since ancient Greece, there was this notion of if you are taking the quote-unquote masculine role, and I'm using that language because that's, how George Chauncey describes it. You fucking know what I mean, okay? If you're fucking, it's the masculine position. If you're getting fucked, it's not. That's how things were defined. So, like, even if the person you were fucking was a man, you were still fucking. So you didn't consider yourself anything other than, and the term I'm going to use here is normal, because there was no conceptualization of straightness. So people would just call themselves I'm normal, or
I like to get fucked in the ass.
or other words, but we're going to get to other things people call themselves. This largely has roots, like all things regarding culture, in poor immigrant minority communities. It has like an association with working class communities. So the most maybe common word from this time that we still hear, regardless of what it actually means, would be trade. And this would mean a man who identified otherwise as normal, but he would fuck fairies, which we'll get to who fairies are. Um, so, like, male relationships were not considered taboo unless you were on the receiving end. So, like, we could get into the gender connotations of that, obviously, but these men were just getting around, and it didn't matter who, it mattered how, right? So this is the kind of separation that we have. It's not who you're fucking, it's how you are engaging in that act. I don't know any like academic way to describe it other than just like being crass, but that's how it is. Um so like specifically New York City was, well, I mean, we'll get to like San Francisco, all those other like coastal towns at some point, but New York City is full of like sailors and soldiers and other working class men who had left their wives and families for work in the United States. And like they weren't, like I said, they didn't consider themselves part of what was brewing as the culture because of just how they ideated like themselves and their relationships to like their sexual relationships. So there was a lot of just like gay sex happening, and the reason I'm focusing on men obviously is because like you may have heard about how women didn't used to be people. So we couldn't just leave our family and uh go find female companions. uh it's not that we didn't exist, it's that there were other forces that made it hard for the culture to exist in very early days, but we were there.
Well, and also, I mean, it's we all know women have been hated throughout basically all of history, and you see some woke takes today about how a lot of like gay men have a lot of like internalized misogyny that they're dealing with, and it's really interesting.
Is it internalized though? It feels pretty external sometimes.
Okay, in a lot of cases, yeah, but it's like it's interesting to see that this dates back in gay men for a long ass time, because like you just said, it didn't matter if you were, fucking a guy. What mattered is, were you taking or were you giving? And that, it's the same. Like the respect is given
This
to
just in.
the one who
Men
does
have
the
hated
act.
women forever.
Yeah, literally, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
um, we laugh, but so anyway, no, the way people talk about trade, like specifically on Drag Race, they'll still fight about it on Drag Race, but it's more of a like guy who passes for like a straight guy, right? Like a manly man, which is
Yeah.
like, still kind of the same situation, but it is what it is.
Well, and the word trade comes from Polari too. I learned that when I was looking into that.
Yes. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Well, I will briefly because I haven't done a whole lot of research for the pod on Polari. But for those of you listening who are not
Give
familiar
us a
with
snippet.
Polari, it is the secret code language that gay men used to communicate with each other back in the 18th and 19th centuries, and a little bit of spillover into the 17th and 20th centuries as well. Primarily in the UK, I think mostly in England, but the article I was reading mentioned a little bit about Ireland as well. And it was just uh, it was a made up language. It took from Italian, and then it also had regular English words that were mixed in there. Think of it like Pig Latin. Like it wasn't like a I guess legitimate quote unquote living language. It
Or
was
like, you know how French people will do that thing, where they'll like cigarette instead of cigarette, they'll say like garetzi or something,
oh
or
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
instead of femme, they'll say myth,
Or instead of
and they like make it backwards.
it's foo, or vice versa. One of the things crazy.
Vice versa, yeah.
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 And so some of that came over with some of the waves of immigration. Some of that did make its way to the United States, but at that point, it had mostly died out, and so only a few terms from Polari have survived today. Trade being one of them, which I think is super interesting because that's like big in
That is
pop
so
culture
weird.
now too. Like this one
I
little
know.
word has made it all the way from a secret gay code language to RuPaul's fucking Drag Race, and then onto the entire internet.
But it's also like kind of known as like not a joke, but the fact that nobody can agree on what it means anymore, which
Yeah.
is just so beautiful.
Well, with like Latin, like people can
Uh,
study Latin, but no one knows what it's supposed to sound like.
it's true. Very true. Um okay. Yeah, so briefly I mentioned fairies, and I promise I'm not being homophobic. That is the technical scientific term. Um Back in the day, people considered themselves uh fairies, hair fairies, sissies,
And now they're little
pansies,
monsters.
and now they're little monsters. And my personal favorite, I don't know if this was like used by the community for the community or if it was a slur, but the term horticultural lads came up. And I just love it.
Yeah, this just
All I
in.
gotta say is,
That's my new gender. I am now a horticultural lad. Thank you.
listen, you can lead a horticulture.
I thought you were gonna say to water. You can lead a horticulture
That's
to water.
that's no, that's the joke. It's
Oh,
because you don't.
I've missed the joke.
Okay. Because the full saying is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But horticulture, you can lead a horticulture.
Okay.
Get it? Because horticulture is also a word that means the study of gardening.
Or you can lead a whore because they're people too.
Okay. This has gone in a direction that I don't know how to come back from. So the horticultural lads. Less affectionately known by the general public as homos, which also transcends ages, because we still are and always will be. So yeah, generally that was just used to mean people who get fucked, that aren't cis women. So like effeminate men, trans women, drag queens, or female impersonators, they would consider themselves by those terms like a fairy, basically. And that's how it
Slay.
was differentiated from quote normal, right? So in the 1910s and 20s, people who formerly would have considered themselves a fairy began to identify their sexuality as part of their like personhood, part of who they were, not just like something they did on the weekends. um, so Chauncey argues that this is an effort to move away from the working class connotation of the fairy trade relationship, and an effort to like retain their masculine identity, while still acknowledging their sexual preference for other men. Um, So it's kind of interesting that queer became derogatory in the 50s, and then now we're reclaiming it again, but it was originally like what we called ourselves.
Well,
It's just interesting how those things
same
go
thing.
back and forth.
Same thing with the word gay, and then also the word homosexual. I don't think actually started showing up till the end of the 19th century, and it's just a reminder. All this shit is made up.
Well, yeah, like the medical institution is like maybe the most detrimental institution to gay culture in these times.
Yeah, for real.
Anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. We'll talk about like medical advances in sexuality sciences, but not right now because I'm not gonna do that. Okay, so queers. So now we're calling ourselves queers. However, there's men who were formerly considering themselves trade who still don't want to be associated with that. They're like, I'm not that. It's just that I have no sexual preference as long as I am doing the fucking, right? So they started calling themselves rough trade just to add a little pizzazz. So anyway, the word gay, I found out previously on another episode of this. I read one source that said that like calling yourselves gay came from female sex workers calling themselves gay women because like gay, have a good time,
Right.
have a great time, have a gay time. But and like this is similar, but it basically was like a camp word. So people would just be like, "Oh my god, that's so gay."
Yeah.
But that was like okay, and so like the only like modern equivalent I could think of this where like we became known by just like a word. It's just like I don't know if you've ever heard somebody say like, "Oh, well, he's a little fabulous." But that's
I can't talk about
that's the closest thing I can think to compare this, where people would just be like, "Oh, that's so gay," like kind of as a joke in jest, just like a little campy fun word, so much that like we still call ourselves that 100 years later. So I just love that. I think it's funny. Uh, Also maybe like the limp wrist thing that can maybe be in a similar vein. Flappy fingers, baby. Is he?
Yes. No, he's rough trade.
Listeners,
Sorry.
you can just imagine what we're doing right now. Okay. So yeah, so since this became like an inside joke and like an insider world thing, the non-gay world didn't like realize that somebody calling themselves gay was acknowledging their sexual preference for men, because people you'll still use the word gay to mean just like fun times.
Gay old time.
So a gay old time. So it was more discreet. So a lot of people who weren't okay at the time being associated with queers were okay with being called gay, which is, just interesting. George Chauncey says that it was exposed as a reference to homosexuality to the non-gay world in about 1948 in a gossip mag, and it became well known by the 60s, of course.
Natch.
So the last thing I have to talk about, just like terminology wise, also kind of leads into something I mentioned, but we'll talk about more later, which is like the gay world and the non-gay world. But we'll talk about first coming out. And this is like not like this is pretty well known. Like coming out started as a metaphor in like the 60s, coming out of the closet. The thing is, this was like this did not exist anywhere in writing, film, anywhere until the 60s. So we have only considered coming out an integral part of the gay experience for like 70 years. Wait, what? 60 years, right?
Again, this is all made up.
So coming out refers to, well, in like, I'm a Southern lady, so we have debutante balls down here. And when a girl comes out to the debutante ball, she comes out to the culture. She like comes out as a lady, like I am a person now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's what
so
Bridgerton is
then,
about.
yeah, that is what Bridgerton's about. It's also about lying about coming inside a girl. Anyway,
And really hot British people.
so
And gossip. Bridgerton is
so
so
anyway,
gay.
gay people used to be like, oh, this is my friend. He's coming out for the first time, which just meant like he's coming out with us to the gay bars and the drag shows. Like he's coming out
Mm-hmm.
like with the girls. So it's like the same thing, coming out to the culture. It didn't necessarily mean like revealing your most inner desires to the non-gay public. It was just like, I am coming out into the gay world for the first time, not coming out of anything. And so I really feel like the coming out of the closet metaphor like completely changed how gay people see ourselves for one thing, and how non-gay people see both us and their relationship to us. So the reason I keep talking about the gay world and the non-gay world is because, for one thing, I'm getting all my info from George Chauncey, and that's what he uses. But also, it was like, because it wasn't necessarily okay to be gay, the gay world was like a world you stepped into, and you could live in the gay world, but you could also live in the non-gay world, right? It wasn't like you were or you weren't. It was like you could start going to these bars and hanging out with these people, and you can start doing these things and going to these dances. But like everybody was going to the same saloons and haberdasheries and what have you. Um, it was just that like gay people congregated and not gay people congregated, but we were all going to the shows because at some point, so like different times, drag shows become like very popular, but before like the most recent phenomena of this, like it was always more of like a tourist spectacle. And so like non-gay people would like watch the come to the drag shows like as a spectacle, which is like
Right, like
kind
the
of what
circus.
bachelorette parties still do. Yeah, but it was like the circus, and they would go see like, oh, look at these fun little things. Like they were just considered like
It was a show.
um well, it was a show, but they just considered gay people just like, oh, they're just doing their little thing. Like nobody, I mean, I'm not saying nobody gave a fuck, but like people were like a lot more live and let live than we maybe like to give them credit for. And I think George Chauncey maybe like gives them too much credit for some of this, because I'm like, no, people definitely still weren't okay with the like gay relationships and gay families. They were just okay with like men who fucked other men existing in public,
Well, I think
right?
also there wasn't. I mean, you didn't see as many like gay hate crimes until what was it, like one of the Red Scares or something, when it got
Oh my god, we'll get
lumped
there.
in
Yeah.
with communism and all that. That's
No,
when.
you're exactly right. Yeah, you're exactly right with that. Um but anyway, so people would at the same time, people would see all these people intermingling and see like drag shows advertised, and they would complain that the fairies were taking over. This is in the 1910s. They were complaining that the fairies were
Girl,
taking over.
just
Girl,
wait,
you have
honey.
no idea how many fairies are about to take over. I don't know. That quote was just so funny to me. I was like, honey, you got a big storm coming. Um, but yeah, it was just like a quirky little thing. They would just go see, and they'd be like, oh, there's those little people doing their thing. Um,
Oh
I don't
wait,
know.
wasn't
But
this also
so
when like minstrel shows and things like that, weren't they also big at this time?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
what I
no,
thought.
I keep saying drag shows, but it's mostly like burlesque and like vaudeville shows.
Yeah.
But also like the underlying connotation. It's like it's definitely some minstrel shows as well.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not here to erase that, but I don't know the history of it. So,
Same.
but obviously, as we get into the 1920s and prohibition, we'll talk about, you know, we'll get there. The last thing I have to talk about though is just like, because it was still uh just not safe to associate with like that life. You know, people used to say in the life. We still had secret coding to get to know like whether strangers were a part of it, and that's where we get well, obviously we talked about the word gay being like a secret code, just be like, do you know any gay bars? Right? And that to the unassuming citizen could just mean, do you have any bars that would be
Like a
a
good
good fun
time.
time to go to?
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you knew, you knew. That's also where we get friend of Dorothy,
Mhm.
which is a friend of Judy Garland. She was a very early um queer icon, along with, she's, the Elizabeth Taylors, all those sorts of people. That's where we get Betty's from. I also recently, actually just yesterday, learned about a new one, which is this person, like this friend of a friend who's like, she's like 70-ish, not the one you know, but a different person. She who is a lesbian. She said apparently they used to be like, "Oh, I think she sings for the choir."
Ooh, I love that.
Which I love that one. I think she sings for the choir.
That's so cute.
So, yeah, and so later then of course we get like handkerchief code and
Mm.
that sort of thing where it's like color coded based on your preferences and all that good stuff.
And then
I
we
guess
get the
people probably still
earring,
use that. I don't know.
which is still
Oh my god, yeah, you're which side is the gay side? I never remember. The
both.
right
Here's
side?
what I have to say: both. If you're just gonna pierce one of your ears, that's gayer than piercing both of them. I don't care which ear. That's a lot.
Okay, well I do have I have more piercings on one ear than the other, but I do have both ears pierced. So what does that say about me?
I mean, that's fine, but like if you're if you're gonna have one piercing between both your ear, like I think once you have them both pierced, then you can do
Honestly,
whatever and it's fine. But like, no,
I don't know the last time I saw somebody with just one ear pierced.
I've seen them a couple times
Everybody
at
does
work.
both. I'll have to start
But
looking.
here's the thing, though. Here's why I say that, because if you want to get your ears pierced, go get your ears pierced. But if you are so, and this is more for like people back in the like 90s and early 2000s when this was more prevalent, but like if you were going to put so much thought and effort into a single accessory to be like, oh, which one should I do? I don't want to send the, that's homosexual behavior. That's queer behavior. Examine yourself. You're focused on a teeny tiny little accessory for your face because you want to look cute. You're maybe not trade at that point.
Maybe not trade at that point. Oh my god. Okay. Um. Well, any other fun code words you know of that I might not know of?
Well, kind of. This relates to coming out. It's not a code word for this community, but kind of an offshoot of that. I learned that there's a fun little term in the witch community when you feel comfortable enough to tell the people around you that you're a witch.
Coming out of the broom closet.
Yeah, you call it coming
Sorry,
out
I
of the
didn't mean to
broom
ruin
closet.
that for you.
No, it's fine.
That's my bad.
I don't know if it's a secret or not, but like when I first heard it, which was, I don't know, probably a couple years ago, part of me was like, oh, that's cute. But then another part of me was like, is this appropriative? But then I was like, oh, wait, it doesn't matter.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, fun things. I personally will only be asking if people sing in the choir from now on, by the way. So,
What happens if you sing in the shower? Does that mean like you're ace or something? I bet he sings in the shower.
you know what? Let me go talk to this person and I will get back to you.
Sounds great.
Okay, prohibition. This is like, the more I learn about like pre-war America, like prohibition really just like fucked some shit up. Like that really did a number on American culture.
You can't just take alcohol away from people.
It was like something shifted.
Yeah, people got their booze taken away.
Well, the thing is, no, they didn't get it taken away. They just found other places to get it. So, which brings me to my point. During Prohibition, the culture moved underground because if alcohol is illegal, here's the thing: people are addicted to alcohol because it's a drug that makes you have fun and shake your ass. So people are gonna go find alcohol and they're gonna go to these little speakeasies and get their white lightning that was made up in the hills by some guy who goes by Big Frank. Anyway,
Not Big Frank.
so then everybody goes to these like secret clubs. Obviously we know them as speakeasies, and like I said, everybody's going to these same saloons. So now people are accomplices because now everybody's not only just like partying together, we're also like committing crimes together. So in a way, maybe it like introduced gay people to a more wide variety of people who would not have otherwise been going to like the drag clubs and whatnot. So, um, we talked about in another episode alliances in the underground. That also has a lot to do with it. Obviously, we just talked about how all this terminology stems from working class culture, and that's because the working class is where culture exists, period. Anyway, after prohibition ended though, officials just tried to crack down on general debauchery and try to like maybe make up for what they did in the last 10 years. 10 years? 11? I really don't know, actually. I should have looked that up. Oh, I have it right here. I'm so stupid. Okay, January 1920 to December 1933. I am a fool.
So 13 years of prohibition.
Yes. Okay, actually, pause 1 second because. 1 second. Ow! My ankle. My apologies. My apologies.
I thought someone was trying to break into your house. I was like, holy shit. I was like, I can't do shit from here. I don't know your sister's phone number.
What if that happened?
I don't
and you
know.
just watched somebody like rob me? Oh my god, no, I'm so sorry. I was trying to get my notes because I wrote out a timeline. So prohibition started January 1920. FDR was elected March or installed, whatever the fuck you call it. What do you call it? Inducted? He was
inaugurated?
made the president. Inaugurated. Thank you.
Installed. He was installed like a lamp.
I am so FDR. My sincerest apologies. He was inaugurated in March of 33, and Prohibition ended December of 1933. So, in more ways than one, FDR was truly a president of the people. But this also means that officials tried to crack down on general debauchery and used it as an excuse to crack down on any gay behavior because gays were being associated with illegal clubs now, even though, non-gay people were there too. Like I said, people are always homophobic. They were just like, it was just a different way of thinking about people who engaged in the gay world and people who didn't.
Well, this is also around the time that perception started to shift, right, into something nastier and more like the homophobia we know today.
Exactly. So they begin to crack down on any gay behavior. They don't give like liquor licenses to gay bars. You can get arrested for cross-dressing. You can't dance with the same sex in public. Literally all that stuff we've already talked about on other episodes. But as a whole, the culture was just kind of like forced to stay in hiding. Even in these like historically gay neighborhoods like Greenwich Village, Harlem, and like the Bower Street and all that stuff. There was like a hostile, panicked reaction because of how exposed gay life was during Prohibition. This leads directly into Cold War propaganda, which you talked about earlier, such as Joseph McCarthy claiming that the gays in government weren't to be trusted, and police began warning children that that the gays were unsafe to be around. Wait, sorry. Police began warning parents that gays were unsafe to be around children.
Honestly, keep it that way. We don't need the children.
Okay, lots of gay people feel very strongly about the right to adopt children, so let's not be insensitive here.
No, it was a joke. Kids are cool, I guess.
I know. Okay, I just have one more sentence. So, obviously gay culture thrived, but gay bars, bathhouses, and other hangouts began to be separated from straight institutions. And so, obviously, so here we are in like the mid-30s. You may be aware there's like a depression going on / ending. Also, like the stock market has crashed. Everybody's doing terribly. And then in 1939, everybody gets drafted to go to war. And this is when everybody becomes gay. Because all these 18-year-old boys are ripped from their houses and put into, like, during the most sexualized period of their life. Also, women were allowed to join the workforce at this point because they needed workers and they didn't have enough men's. So same thing, women got to be in female camaraderie for the first time. Not to mention this, we're also like going to different places around the world and establishing making connections with other little gay communities that have already popped up. So like the war did numbers for us. Like,
I want to look into the astrology of that. I want to see which planets and stars were doing what to turn literally everybody homosexual during World War II.
Yeah.
Because,
yes.
oh my God, what a time.
Yes. But that's what I have for our intro to the gay world. And I'm gonna start saying gay and straight again because it's, you know what I mean. But yeah, I just think it's interesting how we like our perception as a community has changed of ourselves, and all these like terms that come and go and mean different things, and just like politics affects everything, and alliances underground, all that good stuff. Any questions?
No questions. It's just, I don't know. It's like, I don't want to say it's nice, to hear about all of this, but it is kind of, I guess, more validating to hear that like people were more or less chill with it. I mean, like you said, it was in a different way, but like people were more or less chill with things until the idea,
Right.
the made up idea got introduced that, gay people were bad on like a moral level, and then that got spun into Christianity, it got spun into our institutions, it got spun into just, general
Well, and
ideology.
you throughout history, you just always get this, like, in hard times, you just get this moral backlash because people want to blame the gays are ruining our soil, which is a line from a Dead Milkmen song, and you should go look it up because they're a good band. But yeah, times change, and we're still around, so fuck y'all.
And now there's more of us than ever. Man, freaking
Yeah.
Gen Z is the gayest generation I have ever seen, and it's only gonna get
Now
gayer.
how are the fairies? Anyways,
And the
that's all I
Horticultural
got.
Lads.
The Horticultural Lads, which I vote we should bring back.
Hell yeah, I'm about to change my fucking Twitter name.
Horticultural Lad, oh my god. So anyway, yeah, go read Gay New York. I'm going to continue reading it. We will continue gathering intel about early, specifically New York City, and eventually we'll talk more on San Francisco. We'll talk about like Chicago and St. Louis and all those interesting cities that you don't really think about. New Orleans,
Seattle.
when you think of gay culture. Well, yeah, you can be in charge of Seattle if you would like. Atlanta, oh my god, we have to talk about Atlanta. Holy shit.
Ooh, and Texas. There's a lot of people don't
Oh my
people don't
God.
realize this, but there's a lot of gay activity in Texas.
You think that female pageants are bad?
Girl.
Wait till you watch these female impersonation pageants. Those are the real deal. Those people are insane.
Just listen to Alyssa Edwards
is
talk for
no
5
joke.
minutes, and you might get a little bit of an idea.
I don't know that I can do that. But listen to Kennedy Davenport talk for 5 minutes. I can do that.
I love them both.
Anyway.
So, if you have nothing else to add for our intro, first of all, I would like to say thank you for doing all that. I'm looking forward to where this takes us.
Captain?
Secondly, do you have any little victories of the week?
Oh god, I keep forgetting that we have this segment. Let me think. I cleaned my whole house.
Ooh.
I don't know. I like cleaned everything. Did the dishes and laundry and vacuumed and all that good stuff. And then I went out of town for the weekend, and then I came back to a clean house, which is
Love that.
always great.
Unmatched,
So
yeah.
that's my victory. What's yours?
Mine is not near as impressive. In fact, mine is pretty depressing, but we're calling it a little victory because of positivity. I am moving apartments in like 3 weeks. I have packed 2 teeny tiny boxes of books, all of which were in one location. And now the boxes of books are in that same location. It took me 5 minutes, and I decided that was enough. So
that's okay.
But you know what? I have things in boxes. It is a good
That's
start.
2 boxes that weren't packed yesterday.
Exactly. Yes.
Hell yeah. Okay, well, what are you into, my friend?
I am into, first of all, I did listen to Renaissance, and I have listened to it several times since because it is unmatched. Beyonce said gay rights. And so we love that. Speaking of gay rights, I am also into watching the Chromatica Ball from afar. Obviously, I did not go to Chromatica Ball.
Years in the making.
But just watching all of these queer people on my Like, it doesn't matter if I'm on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or whatever, people are talking about Chromatica Ball, and they are in the wildest outfits. They are crying, like purple mascara is running. It's so fantastic, and all the
Yeah.
outfits. Like, I love seeing all that, even if I'm not like part
Yeah.
of it.
I'm not part of it, but I would like to formally establish myself that I was a little monster from day one. I watched the music videos for Just Dance and Poker Face. I was fucking hooked. I was a little monster before we even had a name for little monsters. Okay?
You're aging yourself.
Pause up, bitches. Pause up. Go ahead.
I was not. I don't know. I much like with Beyonce. First of all, I don't like. I don't really like attach myself to a pop diva or anything as much as I would like to. I've always just like kind of passively enjoyed them. Like Lady Gaga, like, I've listened to a lot of her hits and stuff, and I enjoy them, but I never like really got deep into it. So, and in fact, I think this is the first Beyonce album that I've listened to front to back multiple times. Yeah, I know.
You should listen to B-Day. B-Day is one of, if I'm writing a list of my like 50 favorite albums, B-Day is definitely up there.
What are the singles from that one?
That's where you get like Crazy in Love. That's where you get like Freakum Dress, Deja Vu, like some real classics.
Yeah, I'm having to like retroactively re-gay myself, or maybe just intensify the
We'll
gay.
start there. That's a good start.
And then two other things that I'm into. I'm very much into the beach. There's this like
Nice.
legitimate beach, because a lot of the beaches up here are like just kind of rocky or grassy or whatever. They're not like, go lay on the sand, whatever. But there is one, at least that I know of, that's like 30 minutes away. And I've been going every weekend for like the past month or so. I'm getting a little tan. I've been reading my
Nice.
little books. I've been chilling in the sand. It's great. Water's terribly cold though, but I don't fuck with that anyway. And then the last thing, this is a terrible platform to announce this, but I have to be honest.
Oh God.
I am into the return of football season.
Oh my God. Okay.
Is that too much?
Actually, that is too much. However, I would like to take 1 second to relate to you on this for probably the only time we will ever relate, is that I watched, because I was forced to watch, but I watched this documentary that somebody put on of this guy named uh Troy Aiken.
Okay.
I don't know. I think he was a really famous player in like
I've heard the name.
2000s. I don't know. Don't crucify me. I think he retired from the Cowboys and at some point was at Oklahoma State University. But it was a really well-made documentary and I enjoyed it. So I can understand somewhat the appeal people have for football. I still refuse to engage.
Can I voice though? I want to say, when I tell people, especially because I didn't get into football until my 20s. In fact, I adamantly, vehemently rejected it for the first 2 decades of my life. And so then people are like, "Why now? Like, why are you into it?" First of all, I approached it with the mindset of like, okay, this is how the rest of the world is with soccer. Like, first of all, I had to take away the gay thing. I mean, it all started because I started working at a tourist shop and everyone wanted to hear about the Seahawks and stuff.
Oh,
So I was
God,
like,
yeah.
let me learn about the Seahawks a little bit, maybe watch them on TV so that I can like talk to these straight people at work. And then I was like, you know what? Gay people can be into sports. In fact, gay people, straight people all over the world love soccer, and this is America's version of that. let me let me just like see. And I found out I actually don't mind watching it. It's kind of fun.
Nice. Football games are too long for me. I had to go to way too many high school football games. I have watched all of the games I need to in my life. So,
well, what are you into if it's not football?
well, it's not football. I watched The Godfather. Did I talk about this already? I don't think I did.
I think so. A couple weeks ago,
I watched
maybe.
The Godfather. I also watched the second Godfather. It was not as good. I have heard that the third is worth watching. The third is also significantly shorter, so I actually may consider it. The main thing I am into is this podcast I discovered, and it is when I say it is a revolutionary, I am obsessed with this podcast. It only started in January of this year, but it's such a good idea.
So did we.
And it's
Twins.
oh my god.
Twinning.
Well, I don't think people are shouting us out on their podcasts, but
No, certainly
this
not.
podcast is called Normal Gossip. And people write in to this person with like the gossip they heard from like a friend of a friend. And so like it'll be like 2 degrees of separation from this person, all fake names and everything. Pretty like so far, I mean, completely inconsequential, like low stakes things. Like I'll give you one example. Like this like a lady pretending like she was training for, ran and finished a marathon. And like why this particular person was so invested in proving that she didn't. Just like weird stories that you hear and like of somebody who you like vaguely know and you were like, I gotta tell somebody, this is insane. Just stories like that. But so far, like I said, pretty low stakes, like just like funny, dramatic, like what the fuck stories. I'm really into that.
Maybe we picked the
normal
wrong genre.
gossip. Honestly, we should rebrand. Oh my gosh. Take back what I said. I didn't get this idea from anybody. We're rebranding as
you're witnessing the birth of
an original idea that I just came up with in my head, and it's not based on anything. We're gonna call our podcast Gay Gossip. Certainly, we are the first people to ever think of this.
Revolutionary.
Now that I say that, because isn't that just what like Perez Hilton is? But yeah, Normal Gossip. It's a great show.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's all I got. I don't think so. I don't know. I don't really got anything to talk about this week.
All right. Well, first of all, Carolyn, thank you so much for doing that research. Very much appreciated.
Yes, Cam.
Second of all, thank you to all of our listeners for listening, those of you that have. If you have enjoyed our content or would like to stay up to date when we release episodes, please feel free to follow us on Instagram at Mutable Immutables. You can follow us on Twitter at ImmutablePod. And you can also find the podcast on YouTube at Mutable Immutables or Spotify, Apple Podcast, or Google Podcast. And if you have enjoyed yourself, please rate 5 stars. Give us a like, give us a comment, give us a share, hit that subscribe button. You know, tell your friends.
Smash that like and subscribe.
Smash that like button.
Yes.
Yeah, do all of the above. Yeah.
Cool. Did we quibble?
Oh, when is the last time we've signed off with that? We're not good at this.
Well, this is season 2. We're getting better.
We're progressing, at least. I do think we quibbled. Yeah. Have we exchanged pleasantries?
Sure. I think I forgot to say that earlier.
You did.
Oh, well.
It's okay.
Okay. Okay, bye.
All right, bye.